Recently, I was reading Lost Enlightenment by Frederick Starr, and I came across this fascinating figure from 8th century Central Asia, the Veiled Prophet, a man who wore a green mask all the time. His story caught my attention, but when I tried to learn more about him, I realized there weren't many simplified versions out there, except just a few dense academic books. So I dug through different sources, pieced together his story, and broke it down in a way that's easy to follow. Hope you enjoy it. So there is this guy from 8th century. Nobody ever saw his face. He always covered it with a green mask. He told people that he wasn't just a prophet. He was something way bigger than that. His followers believed him. The empire wanted him dead, and when his last fortress fell, his body was never found. So let's talk about this interesting guy. Al-Muqanna, his name was Hashim ibn Hakim. He was born somewhere around 8th century, in the area what's now modern-day Iran. He grew up in the city of Merv, which today is in Turkmenistan. Back then, Merv was a major cultural and political hub, like the New York of the Islamic world. It's the 8th century. The Islamic world is under control of a powerful ruling dynasty, the Abbasids. They had just taken over from the Umayyads, and they weren't exactly chill about letting people question their authority. Now, Hashim wasn't born into power or wealth. In fact, he came from a pretty humble background. Some sources say he was an alchemist, and others claim he worked as a textile maker. Either way, he was deeply interested in science, philosophy, and religious ideas. Some sources even say he studied under Abu Muslim, the general who played a major role in overthrowing the Umayyads dynasty and bring the Abbasids to power. But as history goes, once the new rulers were secure, they didn't want anyone challenging them. The Abbasids saw Abu Muslim as a threat and executed him. This move didn't sit well with a lot of people, especially in Persia, where Abu Muslim was super popular. Among those furious about Abu Muslim's death, you guessed it right, Hashim ibn Hakim, our guy, the Al-Muqanna. At some point, the Abbasids locked him up. Why? Who knows? Back then, if you questioned the people in charge, that was enough to get you thrown in prison. But here's where it gets crazy. One day, he was just gone. Some say he tricked the guards. Others say his followers helped him escape. Whatever happened, he didn't just disappear. He came back with a new name and a new mission. From that moment on, our guy was no longer just Hashim ibn Hakim. He had transformed into Al-Muqanna, the Veiled Prophet. After escaping, Al-Muqanna started gaining followers. He was a master of persuasion, and people saw him as a savior. He claimed to have supernatural powers. And here's the crazy part. He said he was a continuation of past prophets, including Muhammad, Jesus, and even Zoroaster. He told his followers that the Spirit of God had passed into him. This guy wasn't satisfied with being just a prophet. He declared himself as a god himself. Now, about the green mask, why did he wear it? That's where things get weird. Some say his face was disfigured by an accident. Others think it was a failed alchemy experiment. But if you ask Al-Muqanna himself, he had a much cooler answer. He told people that his body radiated divine light, and if anyone saw his face, they'd go blind. The mask, according to him, wasn't for his own sake. It was to protect the world. Either way, it worked. People were fascinated by him. With his message spreading, Al-Muqanna started attracting followers, especially in Persian territories like Transoxiana. which includes parts of Iran, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan. Why? Because people in these areas weren't happy about the Abbasids had taken over, and they saw Al-Muqanna as a leader who could bring justice. And this wasn't just a small rebellion. Al-Muqanna built an army. His followers, known as the wearers of white or white wearers, dressed in bright robes as a symbol of purity. Meanwhile, the Abbasids, the rulers of the Islamic world, wore black. So, picture this. Massive armies, one in all white, the other in all black, marching towards each other. It wasn't just about politics. It was a full-on war of belief. By the mid-8th century, Al-Muqanna had built a full-blown rebellion. His forces took over cities and fortresses across Transoxiana. Of course, the people in charge weren't going to let this happen. They sent wave after wave of troops to crush him. But Al-Muqanna was a strategic genius. He knew how to use the mountains and employ hit-and-run tactics to keep his enemies at bay. But no rebellion lasts forever, right? For years, he fought off the Abbasids, but eventually they surrounded him. No escape, no way out. The Abbasids thought they had won. They were ready to capture the so-called prophet and drag him back in chains. But Al-Muqanna wasn't about to let that happen. Some say he poisoned himself and his followers to avoid capture. Others claim he set himself on fire so that no one could take his body. And his followers, they believed he didn't die at all, that he just disappeared, waiting for the right time to return. Here's the wildest part. His story didn't end when he died. His followers never stopped believing. For years, they waited for him to return. Some even said he never actually died, that he was just hiding, waiting for the right moment. Today, his name isn't well known by the world, but his story is unforgettable. A man who started with nothing, broke out of prison, built an army, defeated the most powerful people of his time, and became a legend. Whether you see him as a visionary or a madman, one thing is for sure. Al-Muqanna was one of the most fascinating figures in history. So what do you think? Was Al-Muqanna a genius revolutionary or just another guy who took things too far? Either way, his story is legendary. Let me know in the comments. And if you love forgotten history, hit that like button and subscribe, cause there are way more wild stories like this coming your way. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.